positive and more muscular way, Alice Coltrane is the first person that comes to mind, and with Dorothy also. But do you have a sense of that you're actually within a jazz context that you're playing with a little more muscularity?
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely. I recall reading an article where Orrin Keepnews said that Dorothy Ashby, he heard the sounds of Wes Montgomery being played by Dorothy on harp. And which, with it being a large instrument, we know that she's really plucking and pulling to get that tonality, to get that bend on the sound. So definitely it's a physical expression when we're doing it in jazz. And then in the other side of that, when we're playing some sweet passage that just even that requires a level of control to keep it sweet. But to still have that rich tone that can be heard and sometimes really only felt by the listener, which is a whole different experience. And then if we look back historically at the harp, post-biblical and during the Celtic times, the Celts, it was used as a spiritual instrument, but also it was an instrument of war, because when the Celts would go out and the Scottish and the Irish would go out and they would fight these clans amongst one another, they would send that harpist out there, and the harpist would be the one who would be, while they were getting ready to hit, he said, yeah, we're from the clan of this, and my daddy was this, and my great-grandfather was this. And so that harpist was reciting the lineage of these fighters. So it was an instrument of war as well, even as much as no one wants to see it that way. Folks would actually capture that harpist and kill him because he was the historian.
right, he's carrying the history.
Right.
Well, speaking of history, you and I just spoke before we came on air. Maybe we can address this, kind of get with your history, first of all, Destiny. Is there a story behind how you got your name?
Yes.
Let's talk about that.
I was born, and I'm going to do a lot of respect. My father just became an ancestor, and he and my mother named me Stephanie Denise Lewis. That was my name at birth.
Okay.
And when I stepped into my own personal birth and maturation as a musician, not just a harpist, but as a musician, the name came to me that my name was Destiny, because at this point I was going to be creating it. Prior to the age of 30, it had kind of been preset for me, that whole familial experience. But from that point on, I was going to be creator of my destiny. So the name Destiny is what was given to me by my own spirit. So I moved forward, and it actually came to me at probably about the age of 35, so I'd been playing the harp and studying. My study had began at the age of 30. So that's that history of it. Prior to that, I was a barber in Southern California, where I cut and style hair only on men. And I had
That's a great story.
And at a cool little barber shop in Southern California, about 5 blocks up the street from the Catalina terminal.
Wow. Well, you and I talked about the fact that part of your life you grew up in Compton.
Absolutely.
And you called, maybe you can talk to this too, what sound sculptress means to you, because we use the term sound sculptress, and harpist from the hood. And both of those, I love both of those, and I know what they mean for me, just reading them and as a description of who you are and what you do. But maybe you can kind of fill us in on what those two mean, what the connotations mean for you.
Surely. I'll address sound sculptress first. When I first decided that I was going to approach jazz on my instrument, I remember a jazz brother said to me, yeah, he said, so what's your axe? And I was like, and being as green as I was, what's an axe? And he said, what's your instrument? And when I heard that, I said, harp is my instrument. So as a sound sculptress, I use the medium of sound to sculpt and shape an environment. So that's sound sculptress.
Okay.
Harpist from the hood. I said, I'm from Compton. And I don't bite my tongue about that. But how that title came, I was sitting at the farmer's market at Jack London in particular, where I used to play on at least once a month. And I used to do these commercials for the farmers. And I would say, yes, it says, and today we have purple Peruvian potatoes and cosmetically challenged tomatoes for your purchase. And my name is Destiny. I'm your friendly neighborhood harpist from the hood, letting you know it is truly all good right here at the Jack London Farmers Market. And it's stuck. Harpist from the hood. Hood is an old English word that means head. Godhead, harp head, harp hood. And so it harkened back to where I was from. My hood, when I grew up, was all that. The parents took care of one another. The parents and the children were taken care of by all the parents. The community itself was a hood where everyone took care of one another because we are what we had.
Exactly.
And so harpist from the hood, yes, I'm from there. But the hood for me now is even larger and broader. The world is my hood.
Well, you know, it's interesting that your first hood, we'll say Compton,
Absolutely.
was my first hood, Compton. And we were talking off mic before we came on air, the commonality of experiences that come out of that. And what you just said, you know, would echo in my own life.
Mm-hmm.
That everyone that I saw in the so-called hood was about something.
Yes.
And showed you something that the adults in that community were all trying to do something. There's nothing else to take care of their families and extended families, bring some other loved ones from wherever they were to come to the West Coast and live, going to jobs every day, if not 2 or 3 jobs every day. And also, and you know, and I think the hood, and it's a pride that you carry with you so that you make everywhere you go your hood. And that is that it helped create like a cradle for folks who wanted to pursue the arts or education or whatever it is that you wanted to do. I mean, folks wanted to make sure you were going to be able to survive and make a living.
Absolutely.
But did you find that there was at least some embrace in terms of what you wanted to be, and then also some stability, or I don't want to say folks there who were willing to support you, possibly in your effort to do what you wanted to do?
What I found is in that support, what came is that the schools offered such a rich opportunity for music and arts when I was coming up. There were, in the hood, there were violins and cellos and pianos and vocal coaches. In the hood, we produced a Patrice Rushen. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
When I was coming up, that's where that support came. Now I'll go back to that. In my immediate family, it was a distressed environment. Let's say that. And so I remember first telling my mother, after seeing Harpo March on television, that I wanted to play the harp. I got a number of explicits. Because my mother was under stress. She was newly divorced. We had just come back from Japan, and we went from having something to zero. And so me coming to her, telling her about a dream when she was trying to figure out, how am I going to feed 3 little girls with no income, and I'm newly divorced. So at 9 years old, I saw the heart, wanted to do it. That support wasn't available because my mother needed support. And she couldn't give what she didn't have. And she's an ancestor, and I love her because when she finally got a chance to see me play the harp, she said, "Where did you learn to do that?" I said, "Mommy, you don't remember this. Don't you remember when I told you I wanted to play the harp?" She said, "No, but I'm so proud."
Wow, that must have been a special moment.
It was a really special moment. My mother started to make clothes, and she'd always made clothes for me, but she made clothes for me to wear, to play harp with, and she went out and bought me some fingerless gloves, and she went and bought me a wireless mic because she was so proud, because now she could see it. It wasn't her vision then.
Yeah.
But here was this vision of me. By this time, I guess I was about 33. And here was a vision, and she was so proud. So she got to see and hear me before she stepped off the planet.
Man, you know, there's something to be said, and this is testimony to it. There's something to be said, in the words of Langston Hughes, about a dream deferred.
Whew!
You know?
Come on now.
And so, when you're telling me this, at 9 years old, you're seeing Harpo Marx play the harp.
Yeah.
I guess he would be the main person that you would see on television playing the harp. But you shelved that until you're 30 years old.
Yes.
You know, but it still happens for you.
Yes.
The dream is still there. It's, I guess, simmering. Is that the best way to
That's
describe
a good
it?
way. It was